left and Ian Robb on the right. Of course, as mentioned 13 times already, you win this one, you are in. It's going to be so crucial here. You need to get that match win. So looking to see some fantastic gameplay out of both of these players, and it starts with that opening hand.
And Adrian choosing the yellow sleeves for the Lightning deck, a little bit of a theming choice. I'm a fan.
Big fan.
And it does appear like Ian is going to start the game off with a mulligan as we take a look at Ian. Ian's been in these situations before, you know, been on many win-and-in type of moments, knows how to navigate the nerves in these type of situations, so I don't expect many mistakes over on that side of the field.
Yeah, he eats, sleeps, and breathes that that white noise that they pump into his ears, because he has been here so often.
Yep.
This is exactly where he wants to be, and just mulligan, not gonna phase him at all. He's ready to get things done, get those 3 points.
No big deal at all. Both of these players trying to find basic Pokemon here. Ian gonna draw this new opening hand. And the coin flip is going to be very important. Whenever you're playing an Arceus Mirror, whoever can get an attachment to an Arceus V going first on turn 1 just automatically is going to be put into an advantage.
Yeah, no, it's so beneficial. Being able to accelerate those energies earlier than your opponent is going to put yourself in a real nice standing. And honestly, when you see all of the different Pokemon that Adrian has access to, if he's able to do it first, I feel like it's just a little more impressive.
Right, yeah, because there's so much going on. I mean, Adrian has 19 Pokemon in this list, and there are a ton of one-ups. The Vikavolt, the Raikou, the Lumineon V, even a Thundurus from Chilling Reign is a little one-prize attacking option, okay? Even a Ditto V, which actually makes a ton of sense when you have a ton of different one-of Pokemon V that you might want to use at specific times. It's one card spot that kind of can be either your second Raikou, your second Vikavolt, or even a third Raichu V potentially.
All right, looks like a Pokemon was found for Ian. We are now going to see some prize cards. See that Ditto, an Arceus, and a Mareep on one side, and Arceus V-Star on the other, so
nothing too bad. No, not too bad. I mean, some of these cards you don't really mind being in the prizes because they're useful to you when you take knockouts. Things like Drizzile, if you have a Sobble in play, which you usually will if you're Ian, you don't mind seeing that off of the prizes. It does appear Ian is going first and starts things off pretty nicely with an energy attachment to Arceus V.
Yep, steals his opponent's Pokemon,
and Ian
he
says,
is out of Pokemon. Ian wins the opener.
Yeah, Ian is like, I'm going to need to read this Thundurus here.
Honestly, I'm right there with him, you know? Got to make sure that you know exactly what you're walking into.
Just a solid one-prize attacking option. It's Thunder Attack, deals 130 damage, and then 30 damage to itself. So I can see this being really nice in a specific matchup, something like the, you know, the Malamar Rapid Strike, something along those lines. So when you're playing a Dynamotor deck like this, one of the key things is just finding these basic Pokemon very quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. Making sure that you get these charge-up Pokemon. We saw this last game with the Houndowers, trying to get that Houndoom. It's the same effect here, really. Just get those Mareep into play so that you have those Flaffy. Eventually, the Lightning energies will come, and then you can just start to accelerate left and right, because these energies come pretty quickly when you're playing Arceus.
Yes, the best abilities in the game are the ones that allow you to break the rules of the game. And one of the rules of the game is that you can only attach one energy card per turn. Flaffy's Dynamotor gives you that extra push to get extra energy cards in play. Very strong. And this attachment to the active is actually crazy. I didn't even realize this from Adrian, because this charge attack, assisting Spark on the Thundurus, it deals 30 damage, and then you get to attach a lightning card, a lightning energy from your hand to one of your benched Pokemon. So this is energy acceleration through an attack, and it's going to get a KO on the lightning weak Sobble.
Yeah, that's absolutely nasty. It's probably the best start that he could have against Ian's one of his worst starting Pokemon for a lightning deck to be of all cases, and he's just going to have to walk right into it. We also do see now that Stormy Mountain coming down into play too, so get even more access to more Pokemon.
Ian right away is like, give me that card. I need to read that. But the Raikou V, it's basically just a lightning-type Suicune. And Suicune has been very popular, especially during the Evolving Skies format. It was one of the best, if not the best deck in the format at that time. And Adrian's discarding the Raichu right away as well, it looks like. So Ian is reading plenty of cards in this match. You don't really expect to be reading a lot of cards once you make it to round 8.
You know, I got this far without ever reading, so yeah, this does happen.
So Adrian just thinning out that Raichu, and it looks like a Crobat was the grab. Needing a little bit of help here off of this dark asset.
Yeah, I was worried about the hand. It's down to just one card, and I didn't know if he had a supporter. But of course, having access to that Crobat, you are playing in a format that plays a ton of path, but you do have counter stadiums. Didn't have to worry about any of that shenanigans right now. Just looking to find that lightning energy so that not only does he get the knockout, but he gets some clean acceleration onto that Arceus V.
And dark asset will draw 5 cards. That's a pretty good draw. Still, by going second here, can play a supporter card this turn as well. So Adrian is going to have plenty of time and options to see what he can make work out of these 6 cards in hand now.
Yeah, it looked like a fair amount of items slash stadium supporter. Who knows? A bunch of those
Trainer
gray cards. Yeah. And no lightning energy just yet, but yeah, ooh, maybe doesn't have the supporter to go with it.
Ooh, that is really unfortunate. This is a KO still, but not getting that extra energy really is kind of slow.
Yep, well, Ian is going to try to capitalize.
Playing that old school energy search. I love that, getting to grab any basic energy out of the deck and put it directly into hand. Super nice in decks like this where you play multiple different energy types.
Yeah, going to go ahead and grab that water energy.
So I wonder what Ian is setting up here. Maybe just a research, thinning that water energy out of the deck potentially. Have to imagine that we're going to see Ian push for an Arceus V-Star attack. Oh, there's a ton of different types of basic energy in that hand. And yeah, Ian exactly is going to discard that with Professor's Research, drawing a fresh hand of 7. No doubt looking for Arceus V-Star and a double turbo energy. And Evolution Incense can get both of those things because of that incredible Starbirth V-Star power.
Yeah, when you combine 200 damage attacks and searching double computer search whenever you feel like it, yeah, that's pretty nasty.
So this V-Star power can grab any 2 cards out of the deck and put them directly into hand. I imagine Double Turbo will be one of them. And I guess probably needs to get another basic Pokemon in play, right? Needs to have something to accelerate to with the Trinity Nova. Yeah,
and that's when you're really going to start to see what is Ian's big strategy here. Is he going to just continue to go with some chained Arceus together, or is he going to start to show his hand, start to show Pokemon like that Galarian Zapdos V and say, hey, you know what? You're a lightning deck. I've got some fighting. Let's go.
Yeah, it can be interesting in situations like this. You know, online tournaments, they're mostly open deck lists, but in regionals like this, these players don't know each other's lists exactly, so Ian could maybe be trying to get off a surprise with the Galarian Zapdos at some point, and yeah, actually Ian is not going to accelerate any energies. I do believe that Zapdos was in hand. Ian chooses to hold off on benching it, though.
Yeah, seems fair. There's a good amount of these Pokemon V in play, so don't have to worry too much about extra energy cards.
Yep. Can just slap it down and attach one single fighting to it, and you are good to go. Adrian will draw a card and really needs to try to get a little more established, and a Evolution Incense is a great way to do it. And Adrian says, I saw what you did last turn, Ian. I'm going to do the same thing. Can grab that Arceus V-Star, and we'll see most likely another Starbirth. And normally when there's not an energy attached to Arceus, it's not possible to pull off an attack the turn following, but that's actually something that is going to be possible thanks to Dynamotor.
Yeah, we see the lightning energy did hit the discard pile by way of that knockout of the Thundurus, and we also have some pretty sneaky stuff going on. The Raikou does have that, I believe, the air balloon, so can just can come up, draw a card whenever you're feeling like it, and that's pretty nice to always have that opportunity.
The perfect thing to send up after a KO, that fleet-footed ability, just getting you one extra card every single turn, and it also becomes a decent attacker with Lightning Rondo, and that is a quick grab of the Vikavolt, and we could see an item lock come out right away in combination with something like a Boss's Orders. Paralyzing Bolt, dealing 50 damage. but of course, being a lightning type, hitting for weakness on those Sobbles.
Yeah, when you go to Math Camp, you start to see it all lining up. The Paralyzing Bolt doing 50. If you can potentially make that 80, then you can eventually walk into that Arceus V, get that Trinity Nova going with the VMAX, of course, and you start taking big knockouts here. So getting that chip damage lined up, is something you're definitely looking to do.
See what you did there. Adrian has a pretty solid draw off of the Fleet-Footed, finds the Speed Lightning Energy. Speed Lightning Energy draws 2 more cards, and now Starbirth can get any 2 out of the deck. The boss's orders is already in hand. All Adrian needs now is a Flaffy. Put a Flaffy in play, and you can use Dynamotor, get that extra energy onto the Vikavolt, and boss's orders will take a knockout and item lock your opponent.
Yeah, it's so strong, especially with an engine like Ian does play. It's just balls on balls trying to get something going, get those Drizziles, because those are going to get you everything you need.
Right.
And if you can't use any of those, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, you can't use the level balls, the ultra balls, the quick balls. So much going on Ian's side, and it all is activated via that Drizzile draw engine, which is activated via powerful item cards.
All right. Does Adrian have access to that Flaffy? Would be huge, and of course we do see that now.
Yep.
So
grabs it. Dynamotor can throw that energy into play. I expect this boss's orders is going to be slapped down, and sure enough, Sobble comes to the active. Paralyzing Bolt, dealing 50 times 2, 100. Easy knockout on Sobble, and now on this turn, Ian will be unable to play any item cards from his hand. Incredibly strong turn from Adrian.
Yeah, and even Adrian understanding that he's probably going to have a few extra turns with his Vikavolt. There's no damage modification that's going to be coming down on Ian's side now because there's no belt that you can slap down and get this extra 30.
Oh, and the Training Court, and I believe a Fighting Energy did get discarded earlier on in the game. So now Ian can just use Training Court, doesn't need to play any item cards, and Zapdos can get in there with Thunderous Kick, which can be used for just 1 Fighting Energy thanks to that Fighting Instinct ability.
So you're saying that the closed formats can definitely prove to be beneficial.
And there you go. Training Court brings it back, attach for turn, and you can just retreat this Arceus. Get rid of that double turbo energy. No big deal. You've got more of them for later if you want them. And this is a 2-prize KO, putting Ian right back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely nasty with that Thunderous Kick, taking a big knockout there on the Vikavolt that was not expecting to be knocked out on that turn. Finally had that item lock going, was ready to start turning the tides here, and Adrian now on his back foot trying to figure out what in the world do I do when they're throwing Zapdos, Galarian Zapdos V at me.
And Galarian Zapdos V has 200 hit points, so Arceus has the Choice Belt. I was going to say could not knock it out, but Choice Belt will actually negate that damage reduction potentially from something like double turbo energy. So Trinity Nova can come in and get the KO, but Adrian is really going to need to find the double turbo energy to make that happen.
Right, and looking at the hand now, looks like that's not the case, but I think we see the Professor's Research.
Starts with a Fleet-Footed. Draws another Ultra Ball, can thin a card out before the research. Maybe even bench him a Reap or something like that here. Could be pretty solid. Now, Adrian does only play 2 double turbo energy, so a lot less than most decks. And even though you get another Arceus V-Star in play here, sadly, you can't use 2 Starbirths. Those V-Star powers are a once-per-game effect. So off of a Professor's Research here, I have to imagine Adrian is just looking for those pieces.
We do see the counter stadium. No need to grab any lightnings out of your discard pile. You're going to be grabbing those with your Flaffy later on. So go ahead, thin down, get the right Pokemon into play, and then that Professor's Research could potentially line up one of those 2 turbos that you're looking for.
And Raichu V hits the bench, having the Dynamic Spark attack, which deals 60 damage for each energy that you discard from your side of the field. Not just attached to Raichu, from any Pokemon in play, which can be really good. So 7 cards, needs that double turbo, Kyle.
Yeah, this is huge. Adrian definitely needs something to help him out in this situation. You can't let that Zapdos get multiple shots off here.
Did he draw it? I don't see it there in the hand. That is a huge whiff. And now I don't even think Adrian can actually even attack this turn. Can go with the Dynamic Spark for 120, but then Ian's just sitting there ready to take another 2-prize KO.
Yeah, just walks into a bear trap with that. That's not what you want to be doing. He could potentially just send up this Flaffy. It's a poor little sacrifice in this situation, but what else do you do? And honestly, this isn't even that good because Ian has had 3 prize cards.
Yeah, Adrian can attack with the Raikou now by playing this switch, but Raikou is 20 damage off of KOing the Zapdos, and that is definitely heads-up play on Ian's part. I'm sure Ian is very aware of how much damage this does based on how many Pokemon are on both players' benches, so Ian choosing not to bench another Pokemon, even if maybe he could have, because he knows that Raikou V is a real threat.
Yeah, where's the horn when you need it?
No kidding. That would be that extra damage, no problem. And it would have been nice for Raikou to get the choice belt that one of these Arceus has, but Raikou already had the air balloon attached.
Yep, that's strictly against the combo chip. You can't. We don't let that happen.
No, not at all. So Adrian has the Flaffy in the active and is just going to retreat to the Crobat, and this is a huge opening for Ian Robb. If Ian can grab a boss's orders here and take a 2-prize KO on one of these Arceus V-Stars, and Ian's playing quickly. Shady Dealings can grab any trainer card out of the deck. I gotta feel like boss's orders just feels like the good aggressive play.
Absolutely, yeah. He's flying through this deck now, and of course, he's going to have some multiple options following up on this. So as long as you make sure that you've got your energies in the right place to take that final prize card, you can do whatever you want here.
Scoop Up Net gets you a second Shady Dealing, so once again can grab another trainer out of the deck. That first grab was a training court. I do believe Boss is in hand, so Ian has that option. Ian also could want to just use something like a research here, try to find an energy attachment to the Arceus, depending on what is in hand. But I feel like that energy attachment could just come from the training court as well. So Boss's orders plus the energy drop on the Arceus puts you in a pretty good spot to just kind of close this game out.
Yep, and you could see Ian even like trying to manipulate his hand, get himself in a position where if this this Galarian Moltres were to fall, maybe you get those energies prepped up in your hand so that you can work in that baby Galarian Moltres in a situation.
This could be a big opening actually for Ian. Ian grabs the air balloon off of the Shady Dealings, so can retreat the Zapdos, leave the fighting energy on it, so that's a threat. They can just one-hit KO Arceus V-Star and attack with Arceus V-Star on the bench this turn, because Trinity Nova will deal 180 with a double turbo energy, but Ian needs to find the double turbo energy to make that happen.
Yeah, and then once you get that Arceus V-Star, the only real way that you're going to be knocked out is by way of a Raichu with like 5 energies, and that's not going to happen with the way that this board is currently set up.
No, not at all. Ian drops the training court, can grab a basic energy out of the deck, and is actually going to power up that Galarian Moltres with its Fiery Wrath attack, dealing a base of 20 and then 50 more for each prize card your opponent has taken. So not quite in range of getting to a knockout on the Crobat yet, but by just taking this Thunderous Kick knockout, this is smart. Ian's holding off on using the boss because now Ian just has kind of checkmate set up as long as boss's orders can be played on the next turn.
Yeah.
You can either boss and take a knockout with Moltres or boss and take a knockout with the Galarian Zapdos.
This is like if your play and my play had a baby and was just smarter than both of us, because it worked out perfectly.
Yes, yeah. Ian, you know, these are the top level plays that make Ian one of the best in the game right now, and why he's a continual top level player, top 16 competitor.
Well, Adrian is in a tough spot.
Not looking great.
You need to get rid of that Galarian Zapdos. The problem is you walk into 220 damage as soon as you do it. So not fun.
Yeah, Adrian needs to get this knockout, and it needs to be with the Arceus. So if you can get a knockout with Arceus V, and then maybe Ian doesn't have a boss's orders, you can still close out the game, but after research has been played by Adrian, we know Ian's just sitting on 2 boss's orders in that hand, actually. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of tough.
Yeah, not only that, but even if something were to happen to Ian's hand, he's got the Drizzile down, he's got the Sobble down, which means he's going to have access to both those evolutions to get things rolling off the top.
Not looking great, but Adrian doesn't know what's in Ian's hand. You got to play to those outs. You got to keep it going. If you feel like you have a reasonable chance to still win the game, no reason to scoop it up quite yet. Now, it is important to know if you feel like you are in a very unlikely to win situation, sometimes scooping is really the wise thing to do, since it will give you more time for a potential second and third game. Adrian uses the Dynamotor, retreats into the Arceus, and yeah, Ian is just going to show that boss's orders, says, I have the game. Fiery Wrath can take a KO on any one Pokemon on the bench, and Ian Robb wins game number 1.
Yeah, and now you know we were talking about this earlier on with these this Dark Arceus style with the Inteleon. You have so many options in terms of how you get to all of these cards, not necessarily with your attacks, but Ian found a really nice way to add in some additional attacks, some additional strategy to give himself a ton of different play. Probably wasn't thinking about Lightning Arceus when he started giving these additions, but man, is it good against this deck.
Yeah, it turns out that when you're hitting for weakness, it's going to be pretty good. And that's, how Ian crafted this deck. Even though the Lightning Arceus deck wasn't really in mind, other Arceus decks were, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why Galarian Zapdos is so good. Such a solid inclusion. A lot of players this weekend were thinking like, yeah, do I really need this Dunsparce? And I was just thinking, there's going to be a bunch of fighting stuff running around this room today.
Yeah, if it's just one card and it could save you in upwards of 2 to 3 of your 9 matches, I think you got to play it.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the most popular decks, right? Of course, Mew VMAX, easily the most dominant, most popular deck in the format. It's weak to Dark. Then we look at the next 2 decks. It's all the Arceus variants and then something like Gengar VMAX. And what do those 2 decks have in common? Well, they're both weak to fighting. So if you can fit both of those types into one deck and find a way to abuse that weakness so that you pick up easy one-hit knockouts on some of these 2 and 3 prize Pokemon, you're going to be set up for success at this tournament.
Yeah, and it's so synergistic as well because you've got a little bit of energy acceleration if they're not slapping down the Vs, and if they do have the Vs, you've got Training Cord, you've got these ways to grab these energies, you've got so many different ways to search out Pokemon, items, trainers, everything that you have. So Ian is going to find them at the right time, and of course he's going to play it as best as anyone can.
Both of these players drawing these opening hands. Ian, once again, has a mulligan. Ian just can't find basics this set, it seems.
Yeah, he's, it's a lot easier when you're playing online. It just does the work for you. It doesn't take 30 seconds to get
all
going.
Of this. Yeah.
So a little bit of time off the clock, but you know what? That first round went pretty fair, so I feel like we're in a good spot here.
Yeah, these matches go pretty quick. Adrian's deck is pretty straightforward in what it's trying to do. Adrian prizing one of those Dynamotors and a bunch of energies. That is never the best thing to see.
Yeah, that's sad lad stuff right there.
Also prized that 1 copy of Path to the Peak. Not a card that we saw come up that big in our last game, but it is something that could be relevant to shut off Starbirth potentially on Ian's side for a turn. Definitely an interesting one of inclusion. There are a lot of popular abilities in the format, and if you can play a 1-card tech that you can search out with Starbirth and then combo it with something like a Marnie, you can maybe, stick the unsuspecting Mew player with a really bad hand.
Yeah, it's nasty when you combine it with the Vika Vault. You can just shut down basically everything.
Exactly. Now Ian hopefully can find a basic Pokemon. Let's see. I do think that Zapdos is there in the hand. So not the best starter, but we're going to at least get the game going.
Ooga booga, here we go.
Maybe it's not a bad starter, though, because even though Adrian will likely be going first, Adrian just can't put a bunch of Pokemon V in play because Thunderous Kick is just going to come in and right away take a big 2-prize KO if that's what Adrian decides to do.
Just imagine, just throws down 2 more Vs.
Don't do it, Adrian.
And just walks into the fire.
Don't do it.
Oh, there's one.
Oh, yes. Please let that be the only one this turn. Quick Ball discarding a supporter card, so that's always a sign that your opponent has a solid hand. When they feel comfortable discarding something like a Professor Research, you know they're sitting on some sauce.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want to be if you're Adrian and you want to grab anything that doesn't have a V. I would even avoid Pokemon that have a V in their name just to be safe.
Yeah, I don't even want to accidentally bench something like this. I'm not even searching it out with Quick Ball ever.
No Voltorbs today.
So Mareep is the grab, obviously the best thing to try to set up very quickly. Adrian does, of course, have access to the fleet-footed ability, and it's always an interesting choice of when exactly you want to utilize it. Sometimes you want to utilize it before you search out your basic Pokemon because you want higher odds to draw into your basics. But sometimes if you have a ton of basic search in your hand, which we saw Adrian did through the Stormy Mountains in the Quick Ball, you don't really mind getting those cards out, so you have higher odds to draw something more important, like maybe if Adrian's missing an energy card in hand.
You mean like when you prize 4 energies?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably pretty important.
It does have a lightning in hand, so at least that is there. Fleet-footed draws 1 more card, and it's a boss's orders.
Not what the doctor ordered,
Not going to be super useful at this point.
At least you got an energy attachment. You're in a fairly decent spot. You haven't been exploded by a Zapdos, so it feels good.
Yeah, Zapdos has not quite kicked you yet. Ian's got a lot of search cards in the hand. I believe I saw a couple level balls, some quick ball, all of that going on. Going to just start with the Stormy Mountains, and this is a high-level play. The Stormy Mountains is not going to get anything for Ian out of the deck. There's no Dragon-type Pokemon, no Lightning-type Pokemon, but it gives Ian a free deck search on the first turn to check for what is prized.
Yeah, it's always nice to use it, even if you don't. I feel like there's just an added level of just disrespect.
Just
you know what? I'm going to use that too. Give me that.
Yeah, intimidate the opponent a little bit. I'm using your stadium. Level Ball grabs the Sobble right away, ready to evolve into Drizzile on the next turn, potentially. And Quick Ball can discard a basic Darkness Energy from the hand.
Yeah, Ian is balling. He has everything that he needs so far. Has the Arceus, going to have an energy attachment as well. Energy Surge here too, so can go after that that fighting energy if he just wants to make sure he gets that into play and onto the right spot, or he could just start to work on that Arceus as well, and it seems like that's going to be the play here.
Evolution Instance is just going to grab the Arceus V-Star out of the deck right away, and this is smart from Ian. Ian is playing around the Paralyzing Bolt. Doesn't want to get item locked again on turn 2, which is exactly what Adrian went for last game. So by prepping the Arceus in hand, sure, you give your opponent that information and they could always Marnie you, but now you know, like, hey, if you do go with the Paralyzing Bolt, I've got this option.
Yeah, the Choice Belt as well, absolutely huge. That means that having that that double turbo access as well is going to still land a knockout on that Vikavolt. Damage works out pretty well if you do have the V-Star. So all in all, that's a very strong turn for Ian for honestly not having to do very much, not really working in that supporter yet, but it's all you need.
Fleet-footed draws a card. It's that Air Balloon, so that'll give the pivot option to Adrian now. Raikou can move to the bench at any point. I believe Speed Lightning Energy is in hand. One of the more, I think that's probably just one of the best energy cards that's ever been printed, because you want to attach an energy card every single turn. It just gives you extra cards when you attach your energy. Makes it very, very nice.
Yep, and it did land Adrian another Lightning Energy, it looks like, and we were thinking this was going to be pretty difficult for Adrian to find these in the right spots, and instead he's started the attacking power already. He's going to get Energy Acceleration by way of his Thundurus, and he's got 4 energies in his prize cards. He's going to start drawing those probably because of this knockout on the Sobble.
Yep, this is excellent. Adrian can go search any 2 cards out of the deck now with that V-Star power, the Star Birth, and wants to make sure that there's an energy in hand. That's definitely step number 1, so that you can get that extra acceleration with Assisting Spark. And yeah, this is the second game in a row we see Adrian just being able to chase after Sobbles. And this does a few things. It gets you some easy prizes early, and it also cuts Ian off of draw options for later in the game.
Right. You make your opponent use that Arceus V-Star on the second turn. Make sure that that ability they don't have access to that later on when they're trying to chain together those combos again, when they're trying to get that Galarian Zapdos working again one more time. Instead, you can just shut all that down if you make them use all of this stuff now and then don't have access to those Sobbles.
Shuffling the deck up, grabs 2 cards out with Star Birth. And Adrian's going to score the first knockout, which is what we saw in game number 1. But Ian was still able to win that game, even though his Pokemon went down quickly. Adrian gets this Energy Excel and will get the first prize.
Yeah, and it's nice to get those energies down onto the Arceus V-Star already.
Yep.
We saw that it was very difficult to find those turbos at the right time because you only play 2. So now that you have those energies in the right place, we can see some energy acceleration. And when this deck has energies, Raichu starts doing things.
Yes, absolutely. And what is huge here as well is that Ian started the Galarian Zapdos. And we saw Ian keep it out of play until it was a turn that it was going to start attacking. Now what can happen is Adrian has an opening to go Boss's Orders, bring that Pokemon up, and just knock it out. Take a 2-prize KO, and more importantly, limit that easy one-hit KO option from Ian's side.
Absolutely. If you can make sure that that isn't an option for your opponent, then you put yourself in a fantastic spot where they are going to have to be doing these 2-hit knockouts, or at least into your Arceus V-Star. So that's very beneficial.
Now, Ian does play 2 copies of Clara, so 2 easy ways to get the Galarian Zapdos back.
Well, how's he going to find those?
Exactly.
You can never find those.
Well, if only it wasn't a trainer card that you could get with Shady Dealings.
Oh, man.
Trinity Nova taking a KO and accelerating some energies into play, and the Cape of Toughness coming down on Galarian Zapdos, and that's actually a huge hit because now that Zapdos cannot be KO'd by Arceus V-Star's Trinity Nova over from Adrian. That's an absolutely huge card.
Yeah, having 50 extra hit points is going to shut down a lot of different ranges, and a lot of players are used to seeing those charms, but no, you get to sneak that in because you're talking GX over here.
Yes, and that is a...
Well, not GX, yes.
right. Just those extra HP, right, from the Cape of Toughness. And that, yeah, absolutely huge inclusion from Ian. I love this card in this deck for this weekend because while Zapdos can just come in and take easy knockouts, it's usually going to get return KO'd because it can easily be knocked out by Trinity Nova from whatever Arceus your opponent powered up. Playing the Cape of Toughness keeps it out of range of that easy knockout and makes it so you could maybe get a couple of turns of value.
All right. Well, what does Adrian have lined up here? Just going to go ahead and continue to push through, get a little more going on his side with another Mareep. And of course, we're going to see some energy acceleration coming down eventually, but where do these energies go down from this Arceus V-Star? Is there another V lined up that Adrian's going to look to target soon?
Adrian could technically have KO'd the Zapdos this turn with a Raichu V plus a Dynamotor plus attached to Raichu plus a Choice Belt. That would have been enough to pick up the knockout on the Galarian Zapdos, but it would have involved a boss's orders. It was just so many cards. There was no way that Adrian had all those pieces in hand, and as we see with the attachment to the Raikou V in the active, that ain't happening.
Well, in that case, jump back into the deck and try to figure it out once more. We do see the quick ball, see Raichu sitting on the top, but you probably want to make sure that you've got something lined up before you walk into a potential the Zapdos over on the other side.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's worth just bossing and hitting the Zapdos because you're going to have to try to deal with it at some point, right?
Sure.
Even if you know your opponent's going to take an easy 2-prize KO, if you don't just hit this Pokemon, you're setting yourself up to just be in a tough spot after that.
Yeah, well,
and what Adrian actually could do is boss's orders brings up the Zapdos, hits it for 210 damage or 230, depending on what that other energy card attached is. And then you could clean up the KO with the Vikavolt V and the item lock plus get a knockout. So that could be something Adrian tried to set up, but I don't think that's going to be the case unless we see something better off of the research.
Well, there's only one way to find out. You got to go digging, and Adrian is going to find 7 cards now.
Yeah.
See if he can find any more potential outs.
Adrian needs to find a Flaffy here, and one is prized, and Adrian only has 2 copies in the deck. It's a 3-2 line. So
looks like an Ultra Ball.
Okay, that's good because Adrian did already attach return, attached to the active Raikou, but thankfully this Evolution Incense or that Ultra Ball as well. Either one of those can grab Flaffy from the deck, and Dynamotor can get 1 more energy onto Arceus V, so that Arceus V-Star can start attacking. Yep,
and we will see that energy coming down onto the Arceus V-Star shortly, it feels like. And then at that point, you get to start accelerating those energies, and that's when Ian has to start making some pretty wise decisions. He's going to have a lot of different Pokemon with a lot of energies lined up, and he's got the damage line ready to go. He's just got to pick which knockout is going to be more crucial.
Right. So Adrian grabbing a Crobat out of the deck, still needing to draw a little bit more, I guess, looking for maybe 1 or 2 more pieces, or just wants to have another Pokemon to throw some energies on with the Trinity Nova. And this is actually really smart from Adrian, because what they'll be able to do is set things up to a point where you can either, if this Zapdos comes up and just knocks out the Arceus, you have Raichu ready to go, and Raichu's going to easily be able to knock out the Galarian Zapdos.
All right, looks like 3 blanks off of that draw from the Crobat.
Yeah, nothing else helpful there. Oh, is there no energy in the discard pile?
No.
Oh, there was only a special energy in the discard pile. That's right, because that Thundurus used the speed lightning energy. Adrian needed to find a way to discard a basic energy, and with so many energy in the prize cards, wasn't able to find it, so there was no attack this turn.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. There's
I just assumed there was energy in the discard.
Right, exactly. And there's 3 basic lightning in the discard or in the prize cards right now. Right. So just being able to find that was something that you'd think would be so easy for a deck like this. Instead, just has to pass the turn with Mareep.
Adrian chose to put a speed lightning energy on to the Raikou in the active to draw cards. Now, you can still attach it to Arceus, but it doesn't draw you the cards. You only get that extra effective speed lightning when you attach it to a lightning type Pokemon. But I've got to feel like you needed to just guarantee an attack here as opposed to worry about drawing some extra cards.
Yeah, we have seen this energy line is a little bit questionable. It's difficult because you have those speed lightnings, which are so crucial, and you've only got those two turbos to get things rolling, and just not finding the right pieces at the right times, it feels like, here for Adrian now.
And Ian is setting up great here. Doesn't mind taking the 1 prize KO on Mareep, because now Ian is going to go to 4 prizes. And all Ian needs to do to close out this game is take 2 knockouts on 2 prize Pokemon. So with all these Fighting Weak Pokemon, that's going to be very easy to manage with the Galarian Zapdos.
Yeah, he's got 3 Pokemon that can deal enough damage to take knockouts, at least if there's boss's orders lining up.
Yep.
And then even for that Zapdos, it doesn't really matter. Any Pokemon that's in the active is going away. And when you have those Sobbles, when you have that Drizzile in play, that just means that you're always going to have some potential access if you can find any of those Ultra Balls or Evolution Incense, perhaps.
Luminion V hits the bench. Luminous Sign can grab a boss's orders to bring anything up to the active spot and get a hit in. There are a total of 10 Pokemon on the bench, so Lightning Rondo is dealing 220 damage, so it can get in there and knock out something like the Galarian Moltres V. I wonder if that is what Adrian's going to go for.
Yep, he would have a Lightning Energy in the discard pile if it gets knocked out, so finally could start to get some access by way of Flaffy. So you got to start looking at situations like that. Honestly, you have to get the ball rolling here, because if you just play this sitting duck, Ian is going to continue to take big knockouts.
Yep, so Adrian is fine to just bring this up, take this 2 prize KO, but Ian doesn't even have to use the Galarian Zapdos because that Arceus V-Star has the Choice Belt. It's already dealing enough damage to knock out Raikou, and yeah, Ian, you got to feel like, has just kind of almost got checkmate on board.
Yeah, once we see this active Pokemon fall, Ian really just needs to put 1 more Pokemon, and not even that, honestly, because he's going to have multiple Pokemon that can take big knockouts.
They're both ready to go. And everything Adrian attacks with is weak to fighting. And I don't think there's a way for Adrian to get enough energy in play this next turn after this one to get a knockout with Raichu onto this Galarian Zapdos.
Well, we see the hands fluttering over there for Ian. He's starting to get things rolling. We see the Drizzile, and now it looks like that Clara you were talking about is going to be available here.
Yeah, I wonder if Ian will just hold that for next turn, potentially. It actually grabs the Quick Shooting Inteleon, so that's going to allow you to start, getting a little bit of extra damage onto something on the bench, potentially. Ian could play the Clara now and just try to power up the Moltres again, but it's like almost even unnecessary. I feel like this was just a grab to, have it in hand. Why was Ian not playing it, though? Yeah, he's going to think about playing it. Not playing it. Can't decide. And there it is.
I feel like at this point it doesn't matter too much. He's probably thinking to himself, well, I'm going to play boss's orders next turn, so who really cares?
Yeah,
Let's just get some stuff going.
I think Ian is going to power up the Moltres. The other Moltres from Evolving Skies, that Dire Flame Wings ability, getting you the extra energies into play. Fiery Wrath dealing a ton of potential damage. So, yeah, Ian's like, you know what? I've got this Arceus. I've got the Zapdos in the active, and, why not set up the Galarian Moltres as well? That Malevolent Charge ability.
Yeah, when you don't really know what your opponent could be bringing to you, just playing a bunch of cards always feels good because you are thinning. You're thinning your hand. You're thinning your deck. You're getting it down to a low point. If you're looking for a card like Drizzile or the Inteleon or anything that you would be drawing off of potential Judge or a Marnie, you want to make sure that you have as many outs as possible to get that boss's orders to clean it up.
Yeah, and even if Adrian comes up and attacks with this Arceus, which would be out of range of the opposing Arceus on Ian's side, well, Ian's got that Moltres, and that's the option there. So Ian is setting up to where, he doesn't even have to play boss's orders this next turn to win the game.
Yeah, Ian understands that that Moltres is basically checkmate in situations like these because there is a Pokemon that has to leave the board in order for you to win, and if it leaves, you win. Yeah. So
your opponent would go down to 1 prize remaining, so you're dealing just the max damage with Fiery Wrath, 270.
That has to feel good. And of course, playing around all of those potential outs too by way of using that quick shooting, getting the 20 damage onto the Arceus V-Star, knowing that 270 is the magic number, just put everybody within range and we're going to be golden.
Adrian grabs another Raichu from the deck. probably just thinning at this point, hoping that somehow Ian just doesn't have what he needs, but it almost feels like it's just on the board. Research in hand, can discard it, draw 7 more. What could Adrian possibly be looking for here? What could possibly bail them out of this situation?
Yeah, you see the hand start fluttering over there once again for Ian. He sees the supporter come down. It wasn't anything that disrupted his hand. So if he was holding it, which we feel like he is, that's exactly what you want to see.
Yeah, and Adrian can't even knock out the Zapdos. So all Ian has to do is just attack, announce Thunderous Kick once again. And Ian with a pretty swift and convincing 2-0 victory to lock up a berth into day 2.
Yeah, that has to feel good. You've been playing all of these rounds. Locking it up 1 round early, too, means that you do get to eye down some additional points, which is what everybody would love to have.
Absolutely.
You want to keep playing, continue with all of that momentum that you have built up. And if you can push that into Sunday, that's how he continues to maybe get another regional berth under his slate.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Adrian is not out of it yet.
Sure.
Moving to 5-2-1, it feels a little, you feel the pressure, right? Going into this last round, you have to get a win in order to make it into day 2. So Adrian's definitely going to be looking at that. Massive props for showing up with a unique deck. Love seeing stuff like that, but when you're going up against a veteran player like Ian, it's going to be tough to navigate.
Yeah, and I mean, put yourself in the position of everyone who's going to be potentially playing against Adrian in this final round. You're thinking, oh man, just one more Mew, one more whatever.
Right.
And you're going to get a Lightning Arceus deck. You're going to go, I have no way of figuring out what this matchup even means, and I've just wasted all of my brain power on 16 games of Pokemon early on in the day.
Yeah, I guarantee you that so many of Adrian's opponents have had to read cards today, because these are not cards that a lot of people play, and whenever that happens, you gotta just double check exactly what is going on. We saw Adrian actually showing Ian that path to the peak. That was a card that Adrian plays one of and prized in both of the games, and that is definitely something that can be relevant since it turns off the ability of Galarian Zapdos, which is what allows you to attack for less energy. But all Ian really needs to do is find a counter stadium, and that's not too big of a deal, but you never know. If Adrian had access to that card that was prized, maybe the outcome could have been different. Yeah,
I mean, Adrian did everything that he needed to do. He had a perfect understanding of how he was going to win a match like that. He was going after the Vikavolt. He was trying to get some additional things rolling, and if he had that path locked up, he was going to get some chip damage.